Long ago, mankind left the cradle of his home world, but even in the vastness of space, he only found new ways to fight his brother. Battletech, ladies and gentlemen. Today, on this old grognard, we are going to take a look at the Inosphere Command Lance, which is a simple, basic unit for the game Battletech. Commanders throughout the Inosphere know that the key to victory is balance. Savvy leaders match staying power with mobility to seize control of the battlefield and use their limited forces to maximum effect. No horde army here, kids. The Inosphere Command Lance includes the iconic Marauder, Archer, Valkyrie, and Stinger. No assembly required, along with 5 Mech Warrior pilot cards and 5 alphastrike cards. Perfect for Battletech and alphastrike action. So the contents, it says that there's 4 high-quality, fully assembled miniatures. We'll take a look at that. So it says that there's 5 cards here for the mechs and 5 cards for the Mech Warriors. My guess is one of them is probably a double-sided mech warrior. Catalyst Games, tops. I paid just under, I want to say $28, so about $7 a mini for these guys. Unlike the box sets that Catalyst makes, there's no set price on the miniatures as far as I've seen, which is kind of understandable because you want to have a little bit of flexibility in your market. So you do get 4 miniatures. This is a lance. If you're not familiar with the parlance of the game, a lance is a basic squad. This right here is enough for you to paint up and play a game of Battletech between you and your buddy. You each get kind of a light and a heavy, or a medium and two mediums, or you could paint this up as a just single lance. And again, one lance, if you're playing classic Battletech, if you're not familiar with it, it's a game from the 80s. It has that feel. You use a little fill-in-the-bubble Scantron sheet, which is pretty, let's say it comes from a time when there were only 3 television channels and no internet. So you could have a whole day filling in little bubbles with a pencil. That's why, for the modern era, they created alphastrike. So these are the alphastrike cards. We'll take a look at those first. Here's the one for the Marauder. Now, the 4 models in here, a big part of why I got this, A, is because it's a balanced pack, but B, these are based off of the original Macros models that Battle Droids, which turned into Battletech after George Lucas sued them for the droid part. They had used a lot of, shall we say, marginally licensed to unlicensed Japanese properties for their robots. And when Harmony Gold got the rights to what they would call Robotech, we'll lay these out here, they decided that they didn't want Battletech using their designs. I don't know how it worked out, but eventually I guess they just changed the names. Yeah, we'll put that there. 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 And there. And I'm not going to go into like the details of the Battletech cards right now. So yeah, there are only 4 in here. So that's a misprint on the box. But yeah, so there's, instead of a bunch of little bubbles, you just have about 12 bubbles maybe. And everything you really need to know to play the card is on here. Again, if you're familiar with the older version of Battletech, this game goes a lot faster. So you might want to be able to move more than 4 mechs at a time. And at $7 a mini, also if you get a couple, the box sets all come with miniatures, a good amount to yield equal forces. Pound for pound, Battletech's probably one of the best values you can get in science fiction wargaming, period. Mech Warriors, if you're familiar with the video game, you probably know Battletech as Mech Warrior, but the Mech Warriors are the pilots of the mechs. These provide you with pilot cards to go with your mech. There's a low level and a high level version on each side. Boom, archer, and then it'll tell you what faction they're from. It'll give you a little bit of their background, their personality. Bip. And it will also give you most of the most unit cards and most battle mech cards, or mech warrior cards rather, have a special ability that the pilot brings to the table. And that's that. And then let's take a look at some miniatures. This is our archer. This is the first one. This is going to be a light scout type mech. Let's see if we can get a good view on it. There we go. So I am going to be painting these up using the House Davion sourcebook. House Davion is one of the factions in Battletech, if you're not aware of that. Keep an eye out for that. I'm going to be using the paint schemes and a modified version of the painting tutorial that comes in that book. But we'll start there with the archer. I mean, as far as the miniatures themselves, so let's take a look at the Valkyrie. Just a side note, these plastic boxes that these come in with the cardboard, if you can save the cardboard, this is a great way to transport these. When I show one of my other sets, I'll show how I keep the painted models transported inside there. So again, hard with the painting. Once I get the paint up, we'll get some better views. There we go. So, you know, the detailing on these, it's on par with most miniatures that you're going to get on the market. Now, is it crazy Warhammer detailed? No, but you're also not paying $35 for a single miniature, or, you know, $8, $10 for a mini. That these are a lot easier to paint. They're a lot more forgiving for the first-time painter. They're also a great way to just whip an army up on the table. They're already put together. If you want a kit bash, you can do a little posability here at certain points and cut and, you know, repaste and glue, or repin and glue. But yeah, again, I'm a big fan of the game itself. I'm a big fan of, he goes here, and this guy goes there. So I'm a big fan of the lore and of the actual game system. Unlike some other science fiction gaming systems, these guys have been using the same rule set for almost 30 years. So you have a pretty good chance of longevity when you buy a Battletech product, as opposed to certain other companies that might be chasing a meta. Battletech does have a competitive element to it. Here we go. Of course, the Marauder would pop up because, you know, what is the best battle mech and why is it the Marauder? Leave a comment in the description, or leave a comment down below. I'm going to say that the Marauder is the best in the description. So yeah, definitely going to be painting these guys up. I'm going to be using them primarily. I think I'm just going to stick primarily with alphastrike. I did play OG Battletech back in the day. I've played it since. I like alphastrike a little bit more because it's more of a cinematic unit on unit. Has more of a tactical feel as opposed to a simulation feel. I'm not the first person to say that, but it is pretty accurate. The other thing that I find very interesting about the Battletech products is that they are very, how can I put this? Battletech is as big as you want it to be with very little outlay. Right here, this is enough for you to field a unit and play all the Battletech alphastrike you probably would want to play, you know, in an afternoon. Obviously, if you're a bigger collector, you could get a ton of these mechs and paint them up relatively quick. I do want to show you one thing very quickly. If you wanted to play full-on Battletech and you just wanted one rule book, this is it. This is all that you need for everything that you would need to play OG Battletech. We're going to cut some of this because it's too much. How much did I buy this for? I bought this, I believe, for $60. I bought these for $28, so for $88, $90. I already had pencils and six-sided dice at home. I have everything that I would need to play a pretty substantial campaign of full-on Battletech competitively, and know that this book can sit on my shelf for 2 years and I can go back down to the local game store when I get a chance and everyone's looking at me like, oh, hey, I haven't seen that copy in a while. The cover's different. Not the rules, just the cover. And that's your reminder to not waste money on wargaming. Give your money to companies that actually want to play games on the table. They want you to play their games. Not their marketing games, their actual games. And with that, that's this old grognard wishing you a creative day.